2013 Scion TC, and today we're going to be doing the front brake pads and rotors. Let's get to it. First step, obviously, is going to be to remove the wheel. They're held in with 5 21mm lug nuts. Go ahead and rotate our steering assembly. Move the caliper, held in with 2 14mm nuts or bolts. If you get one of these ones that wants to spin on you, you're gonna have to get a pair of pliers and grab onto that inner nut right there. Place that caliper out of the way, someplace where it's not going to fall. Or if you want to get yourself like a wire clothes hanger, you can string it up to your spring up here. Whatever you got to do. Now, I know you're saying those pads don't look too bad, and you're right, they're not. Her problem is that whenever she hits her brakes, her rotors are warped, so the whole front of the car shakes. So we're replacing the brake pads and the rotors while we're in here. Go ahead and check your guide pins. Make sure that they are well lubricated and move in and out and spin freely. See, that one was stuck a little bit. I'm actually going to pull that one out and give it a little bit of lubrication. Just put a little line on it, and then when you install it, spin it around to get it all over the shaft. There we go, that's better. Next, let's go ahead and remove our caliper mounting bracket, held in on the back here with 2 17mm bolts. And lastly, we can go ahead and remove our rotor. If yours is stuck like this one, get yourself a hefty hammer, and you're going to be striking it in between the lug studs. If you are concerned about hitting them and damaging the threads, which you really should be, go ahead and put your lug nuts on a couple threads so that'll stop you from being able to hit that with your hammer. Go ahead and install our new rotor. And I'll usually get myself a lug nut. I usually just put a lug nut down, not like hard or impacted on, but just enough to hold the rotor flush. That makes installing the caliper mounting bracket and the caliper much easier if this is flush and not wiggling around and moving. Next, we're going to go ahead with our caliper mounting bracket and remove our old hardware. Give this a quick spray down with some brake parts cleaner, especially in the areas where the hardware sits. If you have any kind of buildup or rust sitting inside of these areas where the hardware sits, make sure you take your time to grind that back down. Get yourself a wire brush or whatever you got to use, but make sure that that is nice and smooth, or else installing your brake pads could end up being an issue. Next, we can go ahead and grab our hardware. There we go. When installing your new hardware, make sure you press down on both sides. It should be nice and flush along the mounting bracket. And obviously, these little pins where they stick out, those need to face outwards, because if they were inwards like this, they would be touching your rotor, and you don't want that. Go ahead and press down in the back first, and then work your way to the front. Like so. There we go. All right, and our hardware is installed. Go ahead and put our caliper mounting bracket back. Reinstall our 17mm bolts. Next step, and a very important step, get yourself a can of brake clean. Spray down that brand new rotor thoroughly. And the reason that we do this is because when these rotors are manufactured, they are covered in oil so that they don't rust while they're sitting in their boxes. But once they're installed on a vehicle and you put those brake pads on them, the brake pads will actually absorb that oil, and it will deteriorate the lifespan of those brand new brake pads. And obviously we want as much life out of our brand new brake pads as possible. And also, when you start driving, if you don't spray that oil off, it's gonna make a bunch of smoke. It's gonna smell really gross. So make sure that you do that. So before we do that, I'm going to put ourselves a little bit of our brake lube onto the end of each brake pad, because this is where they're going to be sliding on that brand new hardware, and we want it to have a little bit of lubrication. Just a tiny little bit. Make sure you do not go crazy when lubing these things up, or else you can end up getting some of that stuff onto the rotor, and it's no bueno if it does that. Our next step is going to be to compress the caliper piston back into its housing. To do that, grab an old brake pad and a trusty pair of our trusty C-clamp. And yes, I know that they make tools specifically designed for compressing calipers. Those typically last me about 6 months before they break. And I've had this C-clamp for over 10 years. and it has never not done the job. So I'm just gonna keep doing what works. Go ahead and put that go ahead and make sure that that piston is all the way down. As you can see on ours, it's nice and flush. Exactly what you want to see. Go ahead and install the caliper. And go ahead and remove that nut if you put that on there to hold the rotor flush. But other than that, put your wheel back on. Make sure you bolt it down in a star pattern, and you are good to go. You did it. You replaced your own brake pads and rotors on your TC. I knew you could do it. I didn't doubt it for a second. If you'd like to see more videos on Scions or Scion TCs, why don't you watch that video next? I made that one just for you. Other than that, this video helped you out. Leave a like. Don't forget to subscribe, and we will see you all next time.